It's my 1000th episode of Locked On Sharks. I open up the mailbag to answer some of your questions, including what should the Sharks do with pick number 2? When will they be back in the playoffs? Plus, just a bunch of fun things. So, all that and more on today's episode.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Probably part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch this on YouTube as well. And today, something we haven't done in a long time. That's open up the mailbag, answer some of your questions. So that'd be a fun way to celebrate 1,000 episodes. So before we get into some of your questions, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, yep, we're going to divide this up into three. So kind of the first segment, we'll talk about kind of current Sharks questions and stuff like that. The second segment will be mostly kind of trade deadline and draft kind of questions. And then the third will be questions kind of just more fun questions, and then kind of questions around 1,000 episodes. So let's get started with old friend at Berserker on Twitter asks, should these Sharks pursue a puck-moving D-man in the offseason? I think that's going to be kind of Mukama Doolin's job. I could see them looking at it, but I think between Mukama Doolin and then Kalen Addison, who's also an RFA, that's probably going to be your puck-moving defenseman right now, as I don't see the Sharks locking themselves into long-term contracts, expensive contracts, and I think puck-moving defensemen usually pretty expensive. So I think they're going to try to let Mukama Doolin win that job, especially the way he's played with the Barracuda this season. So I don't see them doing that. He also asks, Nathan Todd in the NHL win? Soon, Nathan Todd should play at least. Nathan Todd's never played an NHL game, which is kind of crazy, but I think he gets his NHL debut sometime as a nice, kind of thank you for all your services and stuff. And especially because he's still going to be back with San Jose next year. So I wouldn't be surprised if they bring him up and let him play a couple games here. So Nathan Todd's been killing it with the Barracuda. So at Finn Lowenberg asks, do the Barracuda fire McCarthy, and who should replace him? I don't think they fire McCarthy, to be honest. I talked about with Shang a couple of weeks ago, where was it last week anyway? Time is all blending together. This team, the Barracudas, yes, would they like the Barracuda to win? Yes, they would. Of course, you want your minor league team. John McCarthy's job is to get the players ready to play in the NHL, right? That's his job. If he can win some games along the way, cool. But the fact that they didn't bring in a third goalie, right? Like a Big Save Dave, Aaron Dell, one of those guys who, if you need to call him up to play NHL games, you can call him up to play NHL games. If you want him to hold down the fort in the AHL, they brought in some guys, Scott Sabrin and Nathan Todd and Cole Castles, who have been admirable and have been playing really, really well lately. But John McCarthy's job is to develop and get the young guys ready to play in the NHL. William Eklund developed really well last year, playing really well in the NHL this year. Shakir Mukhamadullin developing really well, going to be playing in the NHL next year. Daniel Gushin, it's been developing really well. Bortolot's had his ups and downs, but you're kind of seeing Bortolot, I think, round back into form here. So as long as he's doing what his job requirement is, and that is to try to get guys ready to play NHL games, and not only play NHL games, but stick in the NHL, I don't see them doing that. And look at Roy Sommers, who was here forever. I think it's the Sharks organization. Yes, I know that was a different regime. I think they want that is kind of the same. Like they want the Barracuda to be prepping guys to play in the NHL. If you win some games, cool. So, yeah. Maxwell Baranka on Instagram asks, do you think Zadina will be a Shark next year? I do. He is a RFA. So if the Sharks want him to be here, Philip Zadina will be here. I think a more interesting, so he does have arbitration eligibility. I think a more interesting conversation is what will it cost to keep Philip Zadina here? And I could very much see a Fabian Zetterlund type of deal, 2 years, maybe like 1.25, maybe $1.5 million a year, somewhere in that range. 2 years, hey, we think you played pretty well. I know this team was pretty bad. Let's kind of let you kind of get your roots here, see what happens. And then when this deal comes up, we can kind of figure things out for you. I think he'll still be an RF. I'm not sure if he'll still be an RFA after that, but I think something like that. So yeah, I don't think Philip Zadina is going anywhere because I think he's played pretty well. He's played hard, all that fun stuff. So I think he is definitely a stick around type of player. Unless we have seen Grier has been pretty like if guys don't want to be here, he's more than welcome. If Zadina comes out and says I don't want to be here, can you just like cut me or whatever? That's his prerogative. But I expect Zadina to be here, especially because of his contract won't be very expensive. So the Nick Jackson asked, realistically, when does this team make it back to the playoffs? Solely based off the kids are doing, and let's say they end up with Celebrini and Blackwood continues to play well. I know they're kind of picturing 2 years out, the 25-26 season. Because they're going to have plenty of cap space. You would expect that's echoing kind of year 3. Will Smith will have played at least a year, maybe 2 years at that time. If you do get Celebrini, like you could picture that. I think it's a more safe approach to say the 26-27 season is kind of what if they don't make it by then. I think that's when you start to have questions on what's going on. So at 25-26, I think is the season they're circling. I think the 26-27 is a more realistic, like, okay, this is kind of playoffs or bust, because it's hard to make the playoffs, right? And you look at teams like Buffalo, who've been rebuilding forever, and Detroit looks like they're finally going to crack through after 7 seasons. I think Detroit's kind of like right on the border right now. It's hard. Like it's easy to tear things down. It's hard to build things up. I think that if they make it in the 25-26, it's like we're happy to be here, type of moment. It's good experience for the kids. We're probably going to get crushed in the first round. But I think the 26-27 is like, this is, you need to see this core, what it's doing. So, and what it's becoming, which 26-27 feels like fake years, but they're real years, not that far away. So, at Jetpack 176 asks, if you could pick one player from your Dolphins to play on the Sharks and one Sharks player to play on the Fins, who are you picking and why? This one I actually thought about for a little bit, but if you don't know, I'm a huge Miami Dolphins fan. That was my first love as a sports friend. Teams was the Miami Dolphins. Unfortunately, thanks a lot, Dad. If I'm picking one player to take from the Sharks and put on the Dolphins, I'm picking Tomas Hertl because the Dolphins need a 3rd and 7 tight end type of player. Like, we need a first down who can go find some space, and I think Hertl's that guy. Like Hertl has all the makings of like a Jason Witten type of tight end, where he's not the biggest, he's not the fastest, but he's just so crafty where he's just going to kind of find a soft spot in the zone and move the chains. And that's what the Dolphins offense really needs, is a move the chains type of receiver. So that's who I'm picking from the Hertl to go play on the Dolphins as a tight end. I think Hertl could block. I don't know why. I just think Hertl could block for some reason. So, and then the other way around, I'm picking I know it's easy, like, oh, Tyreek Hill or, like Mostert, like all these guys are really fast. I'm picking Javon Holland, the defenseman. One, he's Canadian, so he's already got like the hockey's built into him. Like you put him on the ice, he's gonna know what he's doing already. And two, I think he would really add an interesting element on the back end. One, he's like a ball hawk, so like he could be one of the guys who just like intercepts pucks, and then all of a sudden the transition is just flying out the other way. I think he would be a huge hitter too along there. I think he's super smart and cerebral, and I think Javon Holland playing on your blue line, kind of like a roving defenseman back there, just kind of causing chaos. He's going to get burnt every once in a while, but I think he would be super fun on the blue line. So those are my two answers: Tomas Hertl and Javon Holland. So we'll dig into some of the trade deadline and draft questions here, and then of course we'll including what do the Sharks do at number 2 if they don't get Celebrini, asked by many people. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. We're driven by the search for better. When it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. So join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of the show can get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked-on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked-on right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can get $150 on bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. It's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Guys, Steph Curry was on a massive heater going into the All-Star break. I think Steph Curry comes out. They know now's go time. I think Steph Curry has a huge kind of push to the playoffs here. So just keep betting on Steph Curry doing Steph Curry things. So just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sports partner of the NBA. All right, so let's continue with some of your questions. These ones are going to be more of the draft/lottery kind of questions. And a lot of people ask basically, what do the Sharks do if they don't get Celebrini? Say if you get number 2, or kind of what do you do with the first round here? So I actually talk about this with our good friend Tony Ferrari tomorrow, when we do our draft profile on Zeev Buyam, who is super fun. So assuming Chicago wins the draft lottery again, and the Sharks are at number 2, and we'll just say right now Pittsburgh is at the Pittsburgh pick would be number 13. So we'll just kind of play with those parameters. So what I'm doing at number 2 is because I don't think any of the defensemen in this draft are like top 5 worthy. And I think there's such a like dearth, and there's so many defensemen. I'm picking either I'm taking either Lindstrom, Demidov, or Cat and Barkley. Those are I'm picking whichever one of those 3 you feel gives you the best, and they all have their kind of plus and minuses. If I had to pick today between those guys, I would probably lean Lindstrom because I think he fits into the Sharks, what they're looking for more. I know Demidov, there's a huge potential, like, it's Hall of Fame or bust type of feel with him. I think Lindstrom, if Will Smith's your 1C and Lindstrom is your 2C down the middle, and then you have Bstead, or whatever, like that feels, and especially compared to, remember, you have to kind of you're building with the Ducks, right? You're kind of comparing what you're going to have, because I think that is going to be who you're having to kind of take down. That's kind of who your big competition is going to be in the next couple seasons, right? Is the Ducks. They're going to be monsters down the middle. You got to build towards that. So that's who I would go there. And then at 13, whatever defenseman falls, maybe you can package up 13 with 34 if you want to move back up into the top 10, and go get like a Z Bulliam, who we talk about tomorrow. Go get a defenseman if you want to take a swing on your check. Like, there's so many defensemen who have a lot of question marks that I want to take something I think feels a little bit more sure at number 2. And I feel like the forwards a little bit more sure thing at 2. And yes, I know the upside, but those guys still have like 1C upside or elite scoring upside. Well, I feel like the defenseman, it's still such a mismatch. And then, like I said, if at 13, you could take a defenseman. If you want to take another defenseman, with like, you have 4 picks probably in the top 50. I wouldn't be surprised if number 1 is a forward, and then they pick 3 defensemen, or if they pick 2 defensemen out of those 4 picks. Like, yeah, that's how I feel, or they're probably going to try to attack it. So depending on what goes on with there. So boom, boom, boom. So yeah, a couple people asked that, what am I doing with the picks? Who do they take at number 2? At TS Graveline asks, could there be a push to add first round picks in next year, the 2025 draft, with trades possibly bringing from that? Basically, like, instead of asking for 2024 picks, do you try to maybe push things in the future? So something kind of keep in mind, at least like with the NFL, if you ask a year out, it's almost like you have to ask for a lower round or higher round. So like the equivalent of this year's second round pick would be a 2025 first round pick, if that makes sense, right? So if they're like, hey, I don't have a second round pick this year, the equivalent would be the 2025 first round pick. So a team like Toronto, which doesn't have a lot of mid round picks, that could be a team, especially if they want to take Ferraro, maybe you take a bad contract back, and you get, instead of getting that 2024 pick, you get that 2025 pick, when it's supposed to be kind of maybe a more dynamic class. But then you never know kind of what happens, right? And I think that's the kind of the thing with the Pittsburgh. It's like, we'll just wait till it's 2025. But if Pittsburgh's just good again next year, like, that's very well in the realm. They could also bottom out, and it could be a Tim Stützle pick all over again. But there's the same, like, they could also just be really, really good again. So I could see that, especially if we know the Sharks aren't going to like turn this thing around. It's kind of turning around the Titanic. This is a long, slow process. So maybe trying to get a pick in the 2025 draft isn't the worst thing in the world. And, quickly looking into next year's, like, you're going to have guys who could potentially, you have Mackenzie Blackwood, who will be going into the last year of his deal. Mikael Granlund, if he doesn't get moved, Nico Sturm, Fabian Zetterlund. I think Zetterlund's going to be around for a while. And then the 2 big ones are Couture and Hertl, but with their salary cap situations and now dealing with their injuries. And even in this offseason, I guess you would have 3 years of Couture, which is a little bit more manageable now. But like, Hertl is going to be 5 years with him. But I don't know if any of those guys are kind of first round guys. Maybe Mario Ferraro does have a couple years left. That would be kind of the guy, I think, if you're trying to get a 2025 pick, is doing something like that. So speaking about Hertl and this offseason, so at hopeful_Howell asks, what do the Sharks do if Hertl wants out of San Jose this offseason? Does this impact the trade deadline? Keeping guys like Granlund, Barabano, or Ferraro? No, because I think it just kind of opens things up. Like, if Hertl wants out, I think then Couture is probably more likely to stay, if that makes sense. Especially if Couture, if he doesn't come back, or if he does come back this season, maybe he wants to try to kind of rebuild his brand a little bit and play a healthy season. I think, though, you then have to try to go find somebody in free agency who can maybe fill in, a top, maybe like a second line center who can kind of play up above his weight while you wait for like Eklund or Will Smith if he comes over, or Celebrini or whoever to kind of get ready. I think you have to maybe go out and try to find somebody, a short-term option who can kind of play that, and then maybe gracefully kind of slide down as some of your younger players start to go. So I think it changes what you have to do in the offseason more with free agency. But I don't think it changes your plan, because it's like with the trade deadline, I think you have to kind of go under the assumption that unless Hertl's already kind of told you. But if Hertl's, if he's already told you, then they're probably working on trades. But you have to assume if Hertl's on the contract, he's probably still going to be here. So that's what you have to do right now. So we'll dig into some more fun questions here, kind of including which episodes I was most excited to record about and which ones I was least excited to record about over my 1,000 episodes. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guarantee Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Bonus, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, let's get into some fun questions. So at GeoRock15 asks, what rank some names to put on my Cali Finn jersey? He already has 2 Hertls. He doesn't want to do Eklund and Smith because they're too obvious. So I'm a big believer in the player has to actually have like worn the jersey. Like, you don't want to be rocking a jersey of a guy that he actually never wore. Like I have a Seals jersey with blank. I wanted to get Bordelot on it, but he's never actually worn that jersey. So going under those personal rules for me, couple names, because you want guys, like if you're like me, right, you want guys who you think are going to be here for a while. There's nothing worse than like seeing a guy get traded or a guy not re-signed, stuff like that. I would personally go, I think Zetterlund is a really safe choice. Fan favorite, seems like a really cool guy. I think that he's just kind of scratching the kind of scratching the surface of what he's going to become for the Sharks. Seems like a really cool dude on and off the ice. Zetterlund would be, I think, a really nice one. Kind of also, you're not like one of the main, like if you don't want to be the guys that kind of wearing main, the stars. Zetterlund's a great fan favorite type of player to kind of go on. Henry Thrun also, I think, is a solid choice as well. I think, again, I've said it a million times, Henry Thrun's gonna be like 1,000 game NHL player in the NHL. Once Mukama Doolin comes up, if you want to rock the Mukama Doolin, you could do that as well. So those are kind of 3 I would look at, knowing that those you can wear those for the next several years, right? Because it is an investment. So I think those are safe plays right there. So next we have at JBL82 ask, what's your favorite hockey related memory? I think sitting on the couch crying after the Sharks won the Western Conference, and knowing that you're going to go play for the Stanley Cup, sitting there and crying because it's just been such a long time. So that's probably my favorite one. Now a lot of my favorite ones are just taking my kids to the games and seeing just how jazzed up they get, like getting like a fist bump, or like if they're sitting close to the glass, like guys bumping the glass and stuff, and just their reactions right now is some of my favorite memories. But like Sharks related one though, yeah, sitting on my couch and crying after they won the Western Conference. So let's see. Sens Central, Locked On Sens guys asked, which of the 1,000 episodes were you most/least excited to record and why? Most excited to record, let's see, the first William Eklund episode interview, just because it was such like a huge get for us, for Kyle and I. That was such a huge get. And I think that moment where you're like, okay, like maybe we're starting to kind of figure things out here. And then just like kind of the teaser trailer and everything we did for that was that one was really fun to record. Dan Ruzanowski was that one I was really excited to, just because Dan Ruzanowski is a legend. So that one was really, really fun. Also the Good Vibes Sharks, if you remember last year when the Sharks Sharks beat Toronto and the like jersey got thrown on the ice. Was it last year or the year before? I don't know. Kyle and I did like a Friday night episode. It was just like all vibes, no analysis. We did like a live show and it was super fun. Maybe it was live show, I can't remember, but it was just like really, really fun. So those are some of my favorite ones to record. I love doing the interviews. I think the interviews are just like a blast. I like kind of those shows, but and then my least favorite, anything with the Vander Kane issues, like off the ice issues and stuff. It just is such a slog to record, go through that process, and just kind of the minutia of it, and so, like, I just did not enjoy doing those. The Timo Meier trade too, just that episode, you knew it was just going to be brutal, especially with the original return. Like that episode I was not looking forward to recording, especially because we talked so much about the Devils, and I'm not a Devils fan. I grew up a Flyers fan. I hate the Devils. Like the Devils knocked the Flyers out of the playoffs like so many times. And then just for Timo Meier to go to New Jersey and having to kind of deal with a lot of Devils fans, not a fun kind of couple weeks there. So those are not my favorite ones, but I mean, and just coming on here and recording all the time it's so much fun. So Hopeful Hal asks, how much do you miss Kyle Demetrius and his epic rants, and how much does corporate miss him? Not sure how much corporate misses him, but no, I miss talking to my friend every day. I think that's the big thing, especially during COVID. We were all kind of stuck at home. It was nice to, like, you knew every day at least you get to talk to your friend about hockey and kind of do something fun with that. So I do miss talking to Kyle every day. All right. And then the last, at X Andrew 49 asks, what are your plans for the next 1,000 shows? Just to survive, baby. Just to survive. Don't get fired is my plan. So, but yeah, it's been great. Started beginning of February 2020. Never thought I would do 1,000 shows. Never thought I would get this far. Never thought like people would actually tune in and listen. And it's just as a thank you to anybody who supported, even if you listened to one episode, downloaded, whatever, came up and said hi to me. It's still surreal to this day that people like, oh, I listen to you, I watch you, I follow you and stuff. And just a big thank you to all you guys who've kind of made this such a fun community. And I know it has been it's just wait till if I'm still doing this when the Sharks are good. Oh my gosh, it's going to be so much fun to like come on here and talk about like Sharks wins and, Will Smith did this and William Eklund did this. And oh my God, we're like just being that obnoxious fun fan because it's one day will be our turn. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most is seeing the light at the end of the tunnel from the rebuild and being that young, fun team and being a contending team again. So thank you guys so much. If you haven't yet, now would be a perfect time to leave a nice 5-star review on Apple. Would be great. So you can find the show, of course, wherever you get podcasts, and you can watch on YouTube as well. I think we're really close to 2,500 subscribers on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed there, now's a good time to do that as well. We'll be back tomorrow. Tony Ferrari comes on the show where we talk about Zeev Buium, who I really want to see in teal. So make sure you guys are following for that. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter at MyFryhole. Until tomorrow. Bye, friends.